නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස නමෝ තස්ස භගවතු අරහතෝ සම්මා සම්බුද්දස්ස අදිවාසේ තුනෝ බන්තේ ගිලාන පච්චයං ඉමං අනුකම්පං උපාදාය පටිගන්හාතු මුත්තම අදිවාසේ තුනෝ බන්තේ ගිලාන පච්චයං ඉමං අනුකම්පං උපාදාය පටිගන්හාතු මුත්තම අදිවාසේ තුනෝ බන්තේ ගිලාන පච්චයං ඉමං අනුකම්පං උපාදාය පටිගන්හාතු මුත්තම ගන්ධතේ ලප්පදිත්තේන දීපේන තම දන්සිනා තිලෝක දීපං සම්බුද්ධං පූජයාමි තමෝනුදං වන්න ගන්ධ ගුණෝපේතං ඒතං කුසුම සන්තතින් පූජයාමි මුනින්දස්ස සිරිපාද සරෝරුහේ ඉතිපිසෝ භගවාරහං සම්මා සම්බුද්ධෝ විඤ්ඤාචරණ සම්පන්නෝ සුගතෝ ලෝකවිදු අනුත්තරෝ පුරිස ධම්මසාරති සත්තා දේව මනුස්සානං බුද්ධෝ භගවාති වන්දාමි චේතියං සම්බං සබ්බඨානේ සුපතින්දිතං ශාරීරික ධාතු මහා බෝධින් බුද්ධ රූපං සකලං සදා වන්දාමි චේතියං සම්බං සබ්බඨානේ සුපතින්දිතං ශාරීරික ධාතු මහා බෝධින් බුද්ධ රූපං සකලං සදා වන්දාමි චේතියං සම්බං සබ්බඨානේ සුපතිට්ඨිතං ශාරීරික ධාතු මහා බෝධින් බුද්ධ රූපං සකලං සදා කායේන වාචා චිත්තේන පමාදේන මයා කතං අච්චයං khමමේ භන්තේ භූරි පඤ්ඤ තථාගත කායේන වාචා චිත්තේන පමාදේන මයා කතං අච්චයං khමමේ ධම්ම සම්දිට්ඨික අකාලික කායේන වාචා චිත්තේන පමාදේන මයා කතං අච්චයං khමමේ සංඝ පුඤ්ඤක් හෙත්ත අනුත්තර සාදු සාදු සාදු. So good evening everyone. All of you have gathered here to listen to some Dhamma and also to have a discussion, right? If I'm correct. So Mr. Ajit invited me. He has been a good devotee of us since some time, supporting very much Mahasangha, especially our institute in Karuwalagassewa and also many monks all around the country. So I was invited to give a short talk followed by a Dhamma discussion. The topic I decided to talk upon is about the latent defilements that we possess. I think some of you have heard about the word anusaya. Anusaya means uneradicated faults that we possess. Hope you are familiar with the word defilements. Defilements are kilesa, kelis, right? Kelis, defilements. According to the teachings, defilements have 3 stages. The uneradicated stage, which can also be termed as the latent stage or the potency. Defilements are the natures that defile our mind, downgrade our mind, or pollute our mind. So the mind loses its purity when it is obsessed or it is connected with defilements. As Buddha has put forward, we all possess defilements by birth. There is no being who is born without defilements. In another way to put this is, if you become an arahant, rahat, if you become an arahant, you eradicate all the latent defiled tendencies. So as a result, we will not be born again. So if someone is born, someone gets rebirth, that's an indicator, explicit indicator that he has not attained arahantship. He has not become an arahatan vahanse. Therefore, everyone by birth, by default, possess defilements. And these defilements are found in 3 layer stages. The word stages is much better. First is the latent stage. You can also term it as a sleeping stage. Then the second stage is, in Pali we call pariyuttana. Normally the scholars render this in English as obsessive stage. Normally the English word obsession means you are obsessed with something, you cannot forget, or your mind is fixed on some object. You cannot forget it, you cannot get rid of that. That's called obsession, right? It's not a complete rendering, but the meaning is it comes into the surface. Your mind is connected with this. The third stage is transgressive stage, or the transgression. So we'll put this in a simile. Think about a snake who has the poison, who has the ability to bite someone, right? Very poisonous snake. It's lying down or sleeping in its cave, or the snake ant hill. Normally snakes occupy the ant hills they made, right? Snakes never make their homes, right? So they go into the hills made by the termites and they occupy the space. That's what is happening. So termites build the hill, snakes go in and they occupy. That's what happens. So he's living in its ant hill, its domain. Think some sort of a ball has gone into the hole, onto the hill. A child comes in and puts his hand, and this wakes the snake up. The snake who was sleeping now is awake. Now he knows what is happening. He sees a hand coming in, because he doesn't see the child outside. He just see the hand has come up, come into his domain, into his house. Then what happens? Being angry, the next stage will be, it will bite. The snake would attack. Now think about the 3 stages the snake went through. He was sleeping, he got wake up, he woke up actually, and then he saw the hand which he didn't like. Then eventually he bit. Now how do we equalize this simile with the defilements? We possess a defiling tendency, a tendency towards defilements, or tendency to be defiled. That's why we normally say, don't make me angry, right? We know there's a demon inside us, right? Who is this demon? Who is this? What is this anger? Even at this moment, now we are very calm and we are very well focused on the Bhante's talk, monk's talk. But still, if you get a call from someone saying that the burglar has entered into your house, this will surely agitate us, right? So as the Buddha has put forward, this agitation or the anger is always within us, in a sleeping stage. We know that. That's why we warn the other person, don't make me angry. We know that if there's a appealing object, our lust, craving can come up anytime. We normally suppress our thoughts. We don't let our craving entertain as it wants. So we keep them at bay. So this is the stage called the sleeping stage, the latent stage. In Pali we call appahina avattha. Pahina means abandoned, unabandoned stage of defilements. Then when a certain object that appeals for this defilement, which calls for these defilements, it comes into our mind. The mind is a different reality. According to Theravāda teaching, there is only one mind at a time. There was a different Buddhist sect which was known as Eka Vyavaharika. They advocated, they were the same disciples of the Buddha who got divided based on certain philosophical issues. And they advocated that there are two minds at the same time, one is pure and one is impure. One gets impure. So the purpose of the practice is to wake up this pure mind and understand the world. There's a different Buddhist sect which is not compatible with Theravada at all. Now that teachings got wiped out. It means the doctrine is lost. There were 18 schools when the Emperor Asoka ascended to the throne. So one of them is Theravada. So we follow this Theravada which was brought to Sri Lanka by his son, Venerable Mahinda. So there are certain differences between these Buddhist schools. So we normally advocate Theravada teaching. So according to Theravada, there is only one mind at a time. But this happens in a stream. It's a lineage of minds. It's a stream of minds. What is meant by a lineage? One mind arises. As soon as it is arrival, it does its functions. It disappears. Connected to that mind, another mind comes up. Now think about a pile of books is here. You take one from the bottom and the other one will come to that space, right? So likewise, minds keep on happening. New minds recur. It's a recurring process. So into this process, these latent defilements, comes into surface of this mind stream. Normally our mind is pure. The Buddha said, Pabassara midam bhikkave cittang. The mind is pure, undefiled. Especially our default mind, the mind with which we are born, is pleasant. But at the same time, we possess a potency to defilements. So we can consider just two different stages. They are not two different realities. I'm not going to say why they are not two different realities. But it's a fault, it's a mistake in Dhamma to preach this as two different realities. Mind is a one entity. It has certain emotions, mental factors, which you may have learned, like contact, feeling, perception, sanya, vedana, right, connected with the mind. And these defilements are another type of a reality which is connected with mind. It means we can have a mind with good feelings, at the same time defiling natures. We can have a mind occupied or connected with greed. Again, we can have a mind which is connected with non-greed, which is against greed. Now, for example, think at the moment you are giving some dana. Giving some dana. When you are offering something, the mind is not occupied with greed, it is occupied with non-greed, alobha. But sometimes it can be occupied with greed. In Buddhism we term greed as a defilement and non-greed as a pure state, wholesome state. So regarding these defiled natures, unwholesome mental states, we find three stages. We don't find the wholesome states in these three stages. One can ask the question, why can't we have these three stages for faith, for wisdom? No, Buddhism doesn't advocate this. Because Buddhism is not a teaching that would prove things. It says things how they are. So that's what the Buddha did. He understood, unearthed the reality and preached it. very difficult to say why it is. If someone asks the question why there is a consciousness, no, there is no answer in Buddhism for that. So these reality, the defiling natures comes into the surface. Why? Because they are found in a latent stage. So they come into the surface means they arise with the mind. They were in the sleeping stage while we are doing good stuff, good activities. When something happens, the mind gets defiled. What does it mean? The sleeping defilements comes into the surface. Other time the mind was pure. It's now woken up. It's awake. Then if you are not able to suppress this, eventually this would come into the transgressive level. That means, for instance, someone is blaming us, complaining us. We are in a pure state in the beginning. Someone starts to shout at us. Automatically the anger comes to the surface. We get upset. If you are not controlled our anger, what would be the eventual result? You shout back, right? You utter a harsh word, or maybe hit them physically, aggressively react. It's transgressive stage. We are in a pure state, mosquito comes and bites us. Surely we get irritated and anger comes in. Right? So if you are not aware about sila, what would be the eventual result? Smash it. So 3 stages. See the 3 stages. Smashing stage, transgressive stage. Vitikkama. Pariyuttana means it's coming into the surface. Anusaya, latent stage. So with regard to 3 defilements, we see 3 stages. Wholesome stuff, no. We don't have 3 stages. We have to bring the wholesome qualities with force. It needs a lot of effort to keep the mind wholesome. So then you have a question, what is the neutral stage? Yes, there is a neutral stage which we call the default mind. This neutral stage is normally neither defiled nor purified. We call it the bhavanga chitta. It's the chitta consciousness we are born with. So think like this. So there is a conscious stream, neutral part of the consciousness. It's happening, rising and falling, which especially when we are at sleep. Right? The mind is undefiled. It's pure. One can say it's pure. It's not occupied with wholesomeness. When you are awake, mind can have only 2 options. Either it will occupy wholesome qualities, either it will occupy unwholesome qualities. So in order to make the mind wholesome, you always have to constantly put effort, be aware, be mindful to make the mind wholesome. But if you give up this awareness, if you give up this effort, if you give up this focus, naturally it goes back. The defilements would come up. That is why the Buddha has advocated there is no latent wholesomeness. You only have latent defilements. So what does this mean? There is a very high tendency that our mind goes into the unwholesome side. What is meant by this unwholesome? It doesn't mean that people are doing all the evil stuff all the time. No. Most of the people don't do evil stuff all the time, right? There are very less people who do the bad stuff. I am against the idea that the quality of the society has gone down. Rather, I see it has come up compared to the ancient days, olden days. We have abandoned slavery, we have abandoned very bad stuff, and now it's upgrading to some level. But the potencies are there. There are some people who may do some bad stuff because we all possess this potency. All of us have the potency. to become a murderer, to steal something, to conduct sexual misconduct. We all have the potency. Time to time there can be eras where these potencies are coming into the surface and people are getting more and bad. So they may do some transgressive stuff all the time. There are eras in which this can happen. But these days what is mostly happening is the mind doesn't come, the defilement doesn't come to the transgressive stage all the time, but it comes to the obsessive stage. That's natural in the human world. We always think about our success. We always think about earning money, to how to gratify our senses. So these are greed, the defilement which we call greed, craving, which is not very harmful to the society. But these defilements are present in our mind all the time. Sometimes they may come to this level of transgression, sometimes, rarely. But on the other occasions, if we want to purify our mind, to bring the wholesomeness in, to make our mind wholesome, we have to put constant effort. That's why the monks have been preaching all the time, be mindful, put effort, try to be always aware, develop awareness and all this. So this is the main point that I wanted to convey. So our mind is in a neutral stage by birth, and then we possess a defiling tendency which we call anusaya. Then when we are awake, we have two options, either for the mind to be wholesome or unwholesome. Unwholesome means the latent defilement comes into the surface. If you want to make it wholesome, we have to put constant effort, spiritual effort, to make it wholesome. Otherwise it may lose the wholesomeness and eventually goes to the unwholesomeness. Unwholesomeness doesn't mean the bad things for the society. When I say unwholesomeness means even the slight defilements are present in our mind that would eventually make us lose peace, mental peace. That's not harmful to the society, that's not harmful to anyone, right? So such defilements are coming. So now what is the practice? What is the practice of the Buddha? The last aim of our practice is to remove all these unwholesome, unlawful tendencies completely, eradicating them. Eradicating. Now think about the final person who has achieved this final goal. We call him Rahatan Mahanse, right? Arahant. For whatever reason, the anger, craving doesn't come into his mind, right? It's not because he is holding it, it's not because he is mindful, because it doesn't possess the potency. There's no reason, if there's no third stage of defilement present in him, they cannot come into the surface. We say defilements are eradicated. He is not suppressing the defilements and keeping them at bay, no. He eradicated the defilements. So that is the final goal. Remove the unwholesome tendencies. So in order to achieve that, from the beginning we are supposed to suppress these defilements. Suppressing defilement is not just tormenting yourself. In order to suppress the defilements, Buddha has shown a path, step by step. We all possess the defilement to possess things to ourselves and to gratify our senses. That's the nature of every living being. Think about a dog. If you give food to a dog, he would not share the food with other dogs, right? Very rare, very seldom it happens. That's the nature. Our nature is to serve ourselves or to serve our family. Serving our family is also is the outcome of part of greed, right? Normally. So normally we tend to possess things to ourselves. Giving dana means going against this tendency. What does it mean by giving dana? We are giving something that is for ourselves to someone else, for other person's happiness. In order to do that, you have to go against the natural tendency of possession. You are going against this greed. You going against it, you suppress it. You don't let it come into the surface. Sometimes after giving, some may regret if he is unable to suppress the greed. So giving dana means you are suppressing the greed. No, it doesn't let it come into the surface. If it comes into the surface, if the mind is occupied with this greed of possession, one will not be able to let it go. So giving dana means in another way suppressing defilement, greed. What is practicing sila? What is practicing sila? Sila means practicing suppressing of these defilements in a higher level than dana. Dana means you just give it, that's it. Just do the activity. But when you are practicing a sila, you have to be constantly aware not to breach the precept that you have observed, that you have determined to protect, that you have vowed to protect. It's a constant practice. That's why dana is easier than sila. If you have taken the 5 precepts and seriously practicing it, if you are serious about this. Now think, if there is a mosquito attack, sometimes it can happen. We in certain areas, especially in our monasteries, there is a lot of mosquitoes. Sometimes we get irritated by that. But if you are seriously practicing, whatever means you cannot kill, right? You don't kill, you care about its life, because no one likes to die, obviously. Even the mosquito and the ant. That's why it runs away. The ants run away when you do make some sounds or anything, right? Everyone likes their life to live. So we respect that regardless of the status of the living being. So if you are serious about this precept, not only abstaining from killing humans, but we respect every living being all the time. We don't let our mind to destroy other living beings 365 days. 24 hours, 7 days per week, 365 per year. So constantly we have to be aware. Not to steal, not to have sexual misconduct, not to lie, even in a very difficult situation, even in an embarrassing situation, even while we are at the danger of being punished, and not to consume alcohol. So these defilements, normally now think, why do we kill a mosquito? We have to prevent. It doesn't mean that we let the mosquitoes breed. No. We have to be careful not to keep the thing that would increase their population. That's a different thing. But in case if something comes and bites you, because systems are not foolproof, right? They are not complete systems. So if someone bites you, why do we kill it? It's harming myself, harming my family, children. We are concerned about ourselves, or some maybe about the human race, right? Someone comes and irritates, we are not going to kill the human, right? But we have less consideration about a different species, mosquitoes. We have great consideration about our own humans, our own species. So we don't care about killing a mouse, but we do consider about killing a human. It's a serious crime. But if you have vowed to protect this sila, we don't let the defilements come into the surface that would eventually end the life of another being. So killing means no consideration about its life. Anger is always occupied. Mind is occupied with anger always. The moment of killing, so we doesn't let our mind to be occupied with these defilements all the time. So by practicing sila, our mind is pure from certain defilements throughout the day. You don't let the sexual misconduct entertain this. You don't let the greed to steal something. No. That's why some people go into the monkhood. We have 227 rules. not 5. These are main ones. The minor one, thousands of rules. Even preaching this Dhamma, I have to be aware not to breach certain rules. So when you are observing more virtues, beneficial ones, right? There is a part of virtue that is not to be abided. For example, some ascetics believe living like a dog would eventually liberate you from suffering, which the Buddha didn't advocate or encouraged. Silabbata paramasa. So it has to be a proper virtue. So it will be a proper virtue. And if you are determined to abide with it, you are suppressing the defilements in a higher level than giving dana. So sila means you doesn't let the defilements to come into the surface of your mind. And what is meant by bhavana? Meditation. Now while practicing sila, we may entertain certain thoughts. We don't let them to come to the transgressive level. We may have anger, but we don't let it come to the level of killing. We may have defilements, attachment. We don't let it come to the level of stealing or sexual misconduct. Practicing sila means not letting the defilements to come to the level of transgression. But still it can occupy our mind. It can occupy our mind. But in meditation, especially in samatha bhavana, we don't even let them come into the surface. We are well focused on a certain object. If we sit and keep on thinking, fantasizing something else, it's not meditation, right? So with meditation, we are well focused, not to let the defilements come to the level of obsessive stage. In vipassana bhavana, now in the samatha meditation, tranquility meditation, we may call it, there's a lot of peace, tranquility. It's very blissful. Happiness is always present in the mind. It's a wholesome happiness. It is a spiritual happiness which transcends the sensual happiness. A person who may have this samatha, happiness, tranquility, may enjoy it, may get attached to it. It's a very slight attachment, not a very gross one. In the vipassana meditation level, even we are very serious about this happiness. Even about this happiness, tranquility, we see it as a conditioned reality. We see it as a suffering. We see it as a non-self reality. So we even doesn't let the spiritual bliss, or we are not even attached to our spiritual bliss in vipassana meditation. So even the slightest defilement doesn't come into the surface. So when we keep on practicing by suppressing these defilements, eventually we'll be able to eradicate this. Eradication happens not because of suppression. That also I need to emphasize before I conclude and give you the opportunity to ask questions. Eradication doesn't happen just because of suppression. What is happening is we are suppressing the defilements. Eradication happens in vipassana meditation when you get enlightened. The reason is all these defiling states which are in our mind, the latent level, are based on ignorance. When there is ignorance, anything is possible. When there is ignorance, anything is possible. When the maturity comes, understanding comes, we lessen our faults. Now take a simile. Just take a simile. You bring a small child here, very small one. He will not be able to focus on this talk, sitting quietly. mostly disturb us. Why is that? He's not mature enough to. If a grown-up person acts like this, it will be very weird, right? You don't expect that. So we'd say, don't bring a child here because it doesn't fit here. Take him to a playground or go to some other place because he doesn't fit to this kind of a discussion. It's too advanced for him, and he doesn't know how to behave in a place. There's a standard in a place like this. So when the ignorance is there, anything is possible, and we accept that with a child. Now think, when we grow up, when we have the understanding, this ignorance, he has the understanding how to behave in a certain place. Just giving a simile, I'm just giving a simile. Then when the maturity comes up, the faults, the mistakes are lessening. Now think about a small child who defecate in his own clothes, urinate, defecate. When it reaches the level of 15 years, you don't expect a child to do that. You should have the basic manners. We expect the child to properly defecate and urinate in its proper place. Now think, if now at the age of 15, it is possible that this child would cut his classes and go and play with the friends. It's possible, right? It's possible. We don't expect him to do like defecating or urinating on his own clothes, but it's possible that he may skip the class and go and play. So that's why we say even the parents would punish him, but inside us we know he's just a boy yet, still a boy. But think about the father skipping the job and go and play with his friends. This is a serious problem. How could he do? How could he give up his responsibilities and go and play while he is supposed to go and work to support his family? So at the age of 30s, 40s, we expect the person to abide with the responsibilities. We don't expect this from a 15-year-old child. We expect nothing from a toddler. Now the toddler level or the infant level, he may urinate, defecate in his own clothes, which is a very, just take this as a simile. When the ignorance is very strong, any fault is possible. At the level of 15, which he has some understanding, we don't expect him to do certain basic faults, but still some faults are possible. He may skip his responsibilities. We do pardon it. But at a different age, matured age, no, we don't expect such behavior from the person. Because he is more matured, he should understand the weight of a responsibility of a family. So with the understanding, with the enlightenment, ignorance is lessening. If there's ignorance, all the faults are bound with it. Anything is possible if it is ignorance there, because if you bring a monkey here, anything could happen, right? We don't guarantee anything because he is full of ignorance, he doesn't understand the situation. Anything is possible if you bring a Rilava here, right? We cannot expect him to be, because ignorance is so much. So when there's ignorance, any fault is possible. Even it can grow to the level of killing. Even it can go to the level of stealing. We all have that within ourselves. But when the enlightenment comes step by step, this ignorance starts to lessen. Lessening of ignorance means lessening of defilements. Ignorance is the greatest defilements of all. So in Vipassana meditation, it's not suppression only. We come into the understanding. With the understanding, ignorance is lessening at a certain level. A certain part of ignorance will be eradicated, not fully, which we call becoming a stream enterer, becoming a sotapanna. A certain part of ignorance is removed, then you become a sota. So, as a certain part of ignorance is removed, he will not do certain faults. Buddha has said, once you have reached the level of sotapannahood, It's not possible that you would kill a living being. Impossible. Because there is no ignorance that would come into the level that would bring forth defilements of disregarding the respect towards someone else's life. So in Vipassana, what I said was, practice is suppressing these defilements, not letting the latent defilements coming into the surface. But in Vipassana meditation, you eradicate the defilements with understanding, not with any other quality. Understanding, because all the defilements are based on ignorance. Ignorance about the life, ignorance about the world. We think this is self, we think this is pleasurable, so we want to entertain. That's why the falls happen, that's why we do misconducts. That's why the defiling natures are present. So when the enlightenment, the understanding comes, which is fully opposite of ignorance, the defilements, the falls related with this ignorance will also be removed. So eventually, when one become an arahant or become a rahatan mahanse, the entire spectrum of ignorance is removed about life and the world, and there's no possibility of any defilement coming into the surface. Right? So this is the message, takeaway message of this short talk is, our mind is in a undefiled neutral stage from the beginning, but we possess a layer, a stage of defilements within us. We don't have the latent wholesome qualities. So when it comes to the awakened stage, awakened means when it comes into the acting stage, we have either two options, either make it wholesome or unwholesome. Unwholesome doesn't mean doing evil all the time. It's occupied with some greed or self-interest and all this, even the minor defilements. So in order to keep it pure from such defilements, you have to constantly put effort. That's what the monks have been saying all the time, be mindful and so forth. Maybe I suppose you have listened to such talks. If you give up this effort, the latent defilements would come up. That's the natural tendency. And then steepings, and they come into the level of mind, in the awakened level. Obsessive stage we call. Then if you are not careful, it can come to the transgressive level. But it rarely happens. I have to say that. It rarely happens. But it is possible. The obsessive stage is very common. We are always thinking about ourselves, our success, only us, I, myself, my family. Then in the practice, the final goal is to eliminate the defilements. But it's not possible to do in an instant. There's a gradual practice. The first stage is dana. Dana means charity, giving, going against the greed to possess for yourself. We go against this greed and give things to others and enjoy while others are enjoying, happy about it. Be happy about that others are benefiting from it. So you go against the greed. If the greed is present in the mind, you will be unable to give. That's why Buddha has said, Danam bhikkave sappurisa panyattam pandita panyattam. Accumulation of merit is a different topic. I'm not touching on that. Then practicing sila means keeping these defilements at bay, and when you're practicing sila, it can come into the surface, but we don't let it go to the transgressive level. And constantly we are aware of that. This is called practicing sila, and which is hard because dana is just doing the act, that's it. But sila, we constantly aware. 24 hours, 7 days, right? If you take it seriously, if you take it seriously. Then in meditation, but in sila, it can come to the surface. We don't let it go to the transgressive level. In meditation, samatha meditation, we doesn't let these defilements even to come into the surface of the mind. While we are meditating, we don't think about other things. We don't entertain our mind. We are just focused on one object. So what happens is, even you wake up from meditation, the mind will be calm and peaceful. It will be undistracted mostly. Then in Vipassana meditation, we try to understand the true nature of every encounter. Whenever we see an object, when we hear a sound, when the breathing is happening, whenever thought comes, we try to analyze them in terms of their realities. See the true nature, vidarsana, bhavana. Even the peace attained through tranquility meditation has to be seen with deep penetration. See their impermanent nature of begetting suffering, non-self nature, sometimes which is called non-selfness. It's an advanced practice. With this vipassana, we don't let the defilements come into the sense, and we do extra thing. The final thing I mentioned was all these defilements are based on ignorance, right? As long as ignorance is there, any possibility is there. Possibility of any fault is there. So in vipassana meditation, we develop enlightenment, understanding. When there is light, the darkness has to dispel. Darkness is dispelled by the light. So when the understanding comes, gradually the ignorance is lessening. When you hit the four paths, stream entry, once returner, non-returner, arahanthood, the fully enlightened, in Pali, in Sinhalese we so on, sakadagami, anagami, arahat, 3 stages. When you hit them, ignorance will be eradicated or shrinked in 4 different levels, eventually completely vanish. So when you reach these stages, parts of your ignorance, levels of your ignorance will be removed. More the parts are removed, more less defilements are within ourselves. When you remove it with the stage of anagami, you can never be angry with someone, no sensual lust arising in us. Level of sakadagami is a lower enlightened stage. Sotapanna is it's also lower, but it's much higher than the Putujjana state. So in vipassana practice, we are not only suppressing these defilements, we eradicate them through enlightenment. Why is that? All defilements are based on ignorance. So this is the theoretical part that I would like to convey today. So based on that, we can have a discussion, or any other questions you can ask, it doesn't matter. If I'm capable, I'll answer. Yes, so this is the takeaway message. This is in summary. We all possess defilements, latent ones. Practice is to suppress it, eventually eradicate it. And then the mind of such a person will never be occupied by defilements for whatever means, whatever reason. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Yes, if you have any questions, you're very welcome. Yes, Mr. Ajit. Anything to clarify, or was it too deep, or I don't know? I'm not aware.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
You said when a child is born,
Yeah.
after they are ever but that child brings defilements with him.
Yes.
For her.
Yes.
How does that happen?
What do you mean by how does that happen? I don't have an answer for how. Why do you say it doesn't have? That's the answer. That's the question.
Because when you are born, you have no anger. You have no attachment.
What do you think when the child is crying? What is the state of the mind? Psychologically, how does a child win the attention? Through crying, right? Crying is a manifestation of its distress psychologically, right? It doesn't possess, it doesn't manifest very gross defilements. True, agree with you. But what is crying? Huh?
Crying for attention.
Attention. When the child does the same as a toddler, we teach him, don't do this. At the level of teenager, he starts crying, we say, no, you are not getting attention because of crying. You cannot do this. We teach him or her. You have to be more mature. Then they learn not to cry, and then they will find out different ways to get their attention, right? So at the level of a teenager, we feel it's very strange if you cry. We know that he needs the attention, he's distressed. That's how he expresses. Sometimes he may cry, shout. This is full of anger, right? Crying is a stage of anger. It is not that we get defilements from the society, no, according to Buddhism, okay? If you ask the question, how could this happen? I have no answer. Buddhism is not a religion that would say how it happened. If someone asks why this samsara is here, no answer for that. Even in the deepest analysis of Buddhism, there's no answer. Buddha has never given an answer for that. I'll just touch on science a little bit. Scientifically, this entire universe is created by a Big Bang. That's the accepted norm in the physics. Not accepted means mostly accepted norm. There are things that they cannot solve. But if someone asks you a question, why did Big Bang happen? No answer for that. Why did Big Bang resulted in this creating of this world? Something other than something else, rather than something else, no answer for that. Same with Buddhism, no. If you have how it happens, no, that's how it is. How do you prove it? Yes, it is there. How do you prove it? It is there. One proving is the crying of child. Is it craving for milk? Why does it cry? It likes, loves mother's touch, protection, warmth, right? If we remember our childhood, we'll not be able to remember very far, but to a certain level, because we love it, right? We want to be with our mother. We like it. What is this? This is craving to some level. So that's why I said in the talk, I'm not talking about the evil thoughts from the beings. I'm talking about even the slightest defilement. Slightest defilement. As you said, even Buddha has said, child doesn't have gross defilements. Child has slight defilements. What are the defilements the child has? He likes the touch. You keep him on a hot surface, he'll start crying. Keep it in a very smooth mattress, yes, it will be very happy. The mother holds her, she'll be very happy. And it's too much hot, starts crying, right? So very basic level of defilements are present in the mind. But then the question comes, how did it grow into this very gross level of a matured person? According to Buddhism, it's not that the defilements grew up because of our inputs. No. You already possess by birth the potency to all the defilements. It's not manifesting because our brain, the body is not matured enough. Our thoughts are not developed. We haven't learned things yet. So they are there, but they doesn't have opportunity to come into the surface. When we grow as human beings in our cultures, shaped by our cultures, shaped by our family background, shaped by our education, the information we get in, this potency will start to manifest according to the environment it gets. That's why people of different cultures have different defilements. Defilements are different. Different people have different type of defilements. In Burma, I spent 8 years in Burma studying Buddhism. They don't save money. Not many people save money. In general, you can say they don't save money much. Why is that? They are very inclined towards giving. You may not believe, When they go to a job, Sri Lankans are, some employers are there. So employees come when they interview, right? They go with good salary, Sri Lankans, they have opportunities to work there. So employees are coming, applicants, they ask a question. Yes, this is my history, this is my qualification. What are you doing now? Where are you working now? I'm at home. Huh? What are you doing? What do you mean? I quit my job, I took a rest, I'm taking a break, and now I apply to another job. In Burma, normally you never do it in Sri Lanka, right? You secretly apply to the other job while you're working in the same job, you don't want to lose it, right? In Burma, they don't have this thought, they don't have this fear. No, they don't have. They just take a leave they just quit from their job first, most of them. This is what the employers said to us. They were surprised. They spend their time maybe 1 month, 2 months, 3 months with the monies they have saved, right? With their children, with their family, and then they apply to a job. They don't have much savings also. So in our culture, if you lose a job, so that's why another issue is there. So the executives, Sri Lankans who go there, they cannot force them as in the same force they do to us. Because firing, if you get fired, they're okay. They're not much worried. Because they'll try to find another job. But in Western culture, in cultures like Sri Lanka, if you are fired by a job, fired from your job, it's a huge thing. So the fear is constantly there. So the executives, it's very difficult to to give the pressure to let the work be done as we do in Sri Lanka. So then they also get adjusted because they don't feel the pressure. The Burmese employees doesn't feel that much. Right? So what I want to say is, it doesn't mean that they don't have this fear in themselves. If they were born here, if they are born in a different culture, they'll have the same agitation that we do. So according to Buddhism, how do we put this? By birth, we possess the defilements for all the falls. According to Buddha's teachings, any worldling, prutujjana, unenlightened being, non-stream enterers, who haven't reached that stage, has the potency to kill the mother. We all possess that potency. We all possess the potency to kill humans, even to harm a Buddha. Even in the child, this potency is present. That's the Buddhist teachings. This is against some Western philosophical approaches. Some said, no, defilements go through empirical observation. Empirical means through senses. You develop thoughts only through observation. So even the defilements grow up with this observation, according to some. But Buddhism, yes, there are certain things that happen through our inputs, but the basic defilements are present in us. So think it like, now there is a certain pool of defilements, culture, our nature of our bodies and all these create the environment. So according to the environment, they grow. For example, the sexual desire comes to a child normally at a certain level, not at the very young level. The body is not ready for that. But for a deva, according to teachings, from the moment he is born, because he is born with a full-fledged body, according to the doctrine, he doesn't grow gradually like humans. He possesses those defilements, the sexual drive, from the moment of birth, because his body is ready for that. So, according to teachings, the full pool of defilements are within the person by birth. But their manifestation may depend on certain conditions. Age, level of the body, the education, the culture, the family background, inputs, the maturity that happens with the age. Naturally, when we grow up, certain defilements automatically fade away, right? But that doesn't mean that we don't possess those defilements. In the next birth, if you are born again, at the young age, we still again possess the same defilements that we possessed in the previous life, right? So according to Buddhist teaching, they are in a certain level. So they manifest based on certain conditions. I hope I conveyed my message clearly, right? So that's how Theravada teachings explain. Okay. You can ask any other questions even. Some other questions. Any? Yes.
A long time ago I visited Burma.
Yes.
And you find you go to the temples, you find the men, women, children all in the temple.
Hold in the temple means?
In Burma,
Uh-huh.
in the temple.
Okay, right.
So they don't, seemingly they don't earn. But
Yeah.
how can they feed their children, their wives, without doing any work?
Right, it's a economical problem you're asking, right?
Yes.
Okay. How do they do that?
Yes.
It's a different culture, I have to say this.
Or
Yeah.
they wait till somebody gives them dana.
You mean?
And now people, the devotees,
Yes, they are not beggars.
not beggars.
Yes. Okay.
Not beggars. But you find them all in the temple, the children, the people.
Right. Very often then.
Sell
Yeah.
flowers.
Yes.
And they earn something. But the men,
Hmm.
a lot of men you find in the temple. So how do they feed their families if they don't have that kind of tendency to work and earn?
Yes, they are satisfied with their level of living. That's one thing. They don't have a lot of expectations. You can find this even in the country Laos. Less expectations. One thing we felt in Burmese people. So in that regard, they are less stressful. They, in other, similar to some European countries, they follow the like in a traffic even. They just follow the traffic. We rarely see a third line, like in Sri Lanka, like in India. Right.
Having lot of patience.
Sorry?
Lot of patience they must be having.
Patient, yes, a lot. I was once surprised. I was having a walk. I was going for a walk in the evening from my university. Just was wandering to get some exercise, and I went in a very narrow path. Very narrow. What has happened is one car got stuck. Some issue has happened. Then maybe 8-10 cars were behind. You cannot, if you want to reverse, you have to go for a very long distance, right? Few people now, he has opened the bonnet and something was wrong. 3 people were from the immediately 2 behind cars have come and helping him. Others were like in the car talking, some were using the phone or having a... None of them I felt distressed. No horns, nothing, no. Nothing to be horned, even they are not distressed. They were in the car and they were just talking with the wife or something and just some were looking at the phone. I never saw the agitation. This was so surprising. There was something very new to me. Even a monk in the car would get distressed in Sri Lanka, obviously. Even I would get distressed, to be true, to some level. But they were very peaceful, very calm. So I feel lessening of expectations has a lot of outcomes.
They are happy with what they have.
Exactly. I'm not encouraging that or I'm not praising that. As lay people, as you said, they should earn, they should work hard. So as a country, they are very low. And one thing, the governing system is very corrupted. I have to say that. Right? Most of the men, a considerable number of men are in the military or monks. You know how many monks have we in Sri Lanka? 30,000. In Burma, 550,000. More than 300,000 go for Pindapata every day. There is one city which cannot afford the monks. There are bus services in the morning, they have to take the monks to other cities because the city people cannot afford the Pindapata. It's too much. Mandalay. There's a hill where monks population is higher than lay people. We have 3,000 monks, right? 30,000 monks. They have 65,000 monasteries, temples. Population is 80 million. 70 to 80 million. Above 70 million. You have 20 million, right? So the ratio, we are 22, ratio is very high. So as you said, many workforce are already monks. There are some children are ordained because of poverty, that's also true, right? But this is registered, a monk is registered as a monk only after he spent 3 years in the monkhood. So this doesn't include the monks who are just ordained. No. Right? So as you said, there's less working, there's less, now that's what the new economic reformations are making them to work hard, work more. Eventually they will end up in more expectations. The dynamics would change, would start to change, sure. Not going to last because you cannot isolate from the globalized world, right? So it's changing.
Then in that case, the people will get more poorer and poorer.
Yes, there are arguments in that, right? So as you said, but somehow they are living. They are satisfied with, but another thing is satisfaction is very high. The rate of satisfaction is quite high in that regard. What I felt, they are poor. The rich are very rich because they were under the government, military government for 50 years, right? So the social injustice or difference are very high. But overall, we felt more patience, less agitation. Respect to parents is very high. It's very difficult to go against your mother's words. Even you are a father, it's very difficult for them to do that. Mother's words are like, parents' words are very, very highly valued. Monks have a very huge influence on the society. And but somehow it doesn't mean they live, they are satisfied with what they have, and they do spend a lot of time for their religious activities than the Sri Lankans. A lot. The president, the military president, who eventually gave up and gave the seat to Aung San Suu Kyi. Now eventually it's a very sad story what has happened now, but when we were there, it was the transition period. 2016 she won a landslide victory. And U Thein Sein gave up the seat, and Aung San Suu Kyi, she didn't become the president. She was barred by the constitution to be president because of the marriage with a foreigner and also having children. So the first thing the president did, the military president, he went to the monastery and became a monk for 7 days.
Is it a rule?
No, not a rule. No, it's a culture. It's a ritual. Very rare to find a man who has not ordained. Very rare. So he spent 7 days in the monastery, being a monk, practicing, meditating. Okay, we have all these issues, what he had done as a president, obviously, as a military leader. But at least he practiced for 7 days as a monk, and then he went home. Like, the first thing what he did was, he became a monk and then spent some time and go back to his house. So, it's unheard of in Sri Lanka, right? And people would not expect that also. But people would not criticize. Even he has done some bad stuff. He was a good president compared to the others. Even he had done some stuff, but they would not criticize. Mehema kara, this is past. No. Monk. After you become a monk, you are a monk, right? Whether temporary or permanent, it doesn't matter. So they respect him. Even they see him, they have to pay respect to the person. So then he went back to the home. So overall speaking, people in Burma are more engaged in Buddhist activities than in other countries. Yeah.
So all these prince practice the real Dharma.
Sorry?
All these prince Yeah, they practice the real Dhamma.
Who in Burma? Yes. Theravada. I'm not exactly saying other practices are wrong. I'm saying in terms of Theravada, the most of the people, monks practice the pure Theravada teachings. We don't see disparities in their speeches, differences, contradictions. No, very less. Most of them preach the same doctrine because they have been taught with this in the same way in Burma normally. Even northern, southern, eastern, western, all the monasteries follow same syllabus and monks are taught in the same Buddhist teachings.
Don't they realize what they are doing to the Rohingyas? Now they are those people are kind of.
Yeah, that issue is there.
Yes, so
That issue
they
is
are
there.
so good and pure.
Yeah.
Why should they do it?
No, good and pure in that sense I feel. Racism, it's very, very strong, right? So when I didn't say they are good or anything, I didn't use the word they are good, right? I said in terms of patience, yeah, they are high. In terms of agitation, less. Expectations, less. Stress level is less. When you come to racism, yes. Not only Rohingyas, Rakhine's, there are 9 states combined. A lot of discrimination is there. Burmese is the main race, like Sinhalese in Sri Lanka, the Burmese, right? Discrimination is quite strong, I would rather say. So Buddhism is the main reason that they are bound as a one nation. One of the main reasons. Not the Myanmarese feel, no, Buddhism. Majority are Buddhists, about 90%. But they have 9 main ethnic groups, 132 minor ethnic groups. It's a diverse country. So these Rohingyas are being treated like they have been completely neglected. Completely neglected, yes.
To the temple.
Sorry?
They are not allowed to go to the temples that the normal Buddhists go.
Rohingyas?
Yes.
Rohingyas are mostly Muslims. Yeah. They are not Buddhist, mostly they are Buddhists. It's a ethnic issue, I would rather say. It's an ethnic issue. It has a lot of roots, like it's an issue that has grown up over the decades, starting from 90s during the colonization period. It's a long issue, and personally I don't appreciate what is happening there. I'm against that. Mentally challenged person. How does the defilement works? It's a very good question. So it means mentally retarded ones, right? If I give an example, Down syndrome, something like that, right? Yes. In terms of Buddhism, in terms of science, it's because of the brain issue, right? There's no specification, but there are certain reasons. But according to Buddhism, now if you remember, I said 3 things: the natural mind, neutral mind, I call it, right? And when it is in the active stage, we have 2 options: wholesome or unwholesome. And the latent stage is always looking to come up. By wholesome, we suppress it, right? What happens is, when you come to this mentally retarded ones, or mentally challenged ones, that's the word that we use normally these days, we don't say retarded, right? Challenged ones. So mentally challenged ones, according to Buddhism, we say the neutral state of mind is different from us. That's the point here. The word we use for this neutral state, please learn this word, bhavanga chitta. Bhavanga means the neutral state we possess by birth. We all know that we are born with karma, right? With good karma, we are born in a good place. Bad karma, bad place doesn't mean the location in the human world. We normally say if you are born with akusala karma, you end up in the woeful realm. So become an animal, peta or some other apaya. Then we are born as humans due to wholesome deeds. Then what happens to a mentally challenged person? In the wholesome deeds, this karma, the action we do, good or bad, produces, now consciousness is a stream, as I said. It arises, passes away. It's a lineage. At the death, this is supposed to stop. But what happens? If we have the latent defilement, craving to live, we all die with the craving to live. Right? Someone can ask a question, what about the person who commits suicide? Mostly it's because of unable to handle the situation, right? Someone commits suicide because he cannot pay the debt. If someone has paid the debt, sometimes we feel it's better to die when we are getting old. Someone miraculously make us young. Would we like to die again? No. Sometimes we lose the urge to live. Incidents can happen. But even while someone is committing, so you can see the urge to live is still there. Most of the people who commit suicide regret on the last moment, they say. So normally, even though they act against, what happens is we possess a desire to continue our living. That's the natural tendency. So we have seen rupas, like objects with eyes for 30, 40, 50 years, right? We have never felt it's enough. We never feel it's enough, right? We never feel we have seen objects enough. Think about a person who is stuck in a cell, lifetime imprisoned. He just see the four walls in the around him, nothing else. But even still, he would never feel I have seen objects enough, even though he's seen the same walls for the entire life, right? He would never feel like that, right? He just want to continue this. That's the nature. So it is just for the eyes, for all the five senses. Living, the beings want to live, continue to live. So this is a latent defilement. So at the moment of death, the mind stream should have stopped. But this latent defilement, the urge, pushes this mind. It doesn't let it stop. So latent defilements is connected with the mind. Even though it's a latent stage, it's connected. It urges, it makes the push. Just take a simile like it's pushing. Not a physical push. What happens is at the moment of death, this craving wants to continue, but just wishing cannot continue the life. It needs an instrument. That's called karma. Kusala akusala karma. Kusala akusala karma produces the new birth. Why is that? Because it's been pushed. The mind stream is pushed by the craving. Right? The new mind of the new birth is produced by the karma. Now the answer to your question. It's a new consciousness happening in the new life. Even at this moment, one consciousness passes away, new consciousness arises. One passes away, new consciousness arises. It's always new. But it's the same lineage. So according to Buddhism, not the same person was born because it's a new consciousness happening, but it's not a different person because it's the same lineage. So karma done is the same lineage. Because of the push of the defilement, the craving to live gets the opportunity and produces a life. Karma produces a new consciousness, which is the neutral consciousness of the new life, which we will possess throughout the life. Is eventually produced by the same karma throughout the life. That's how Buddhism explains. The same karma which gave the rebirth is constantly producing this neutral mind. But our mind comes out of this stage and comes to the active stage, either wholesome, unwholesome. I'm talking about a very deep point in Buddhism. So the neutral mind of a life is produced by the karma which got the opportunity to give the rebirth. one karma. The nature of this neutral mind is decided by the nature of the karma. If it was a akusala karma, the person will be born in the animal realm, for instance. So according to Buddhism, this akusala karma is producing the neutral mind. Okay. Now what happens? Neutral mind, active mind. Right? It's not the yatisita. It's not the unconscious, because neutral mind stops, active mind works, it stops, the neutral mind comes. That's how it is happening. No two consciousness at the same time, according to Buddhism. So the active mind, this is the issue now. This is a very deep point. Active mind is coming when the neutral mind stops temporarily. Then at the sleep, again the neutral mind comes, when you are sleeping. So the nature of the active mind greatly depends on the nature of the neutral mind. Neutral mind is like the basis of our life. I'll give you one simile. Think. Now I claim in this audience that I'm going for Olympics, for the next Olympics, to run 100 meters. What you would say? But how can you going for 100? You cannot even challenge them. How can you run 100 meters in 10 seconds? You are not trained for that. Your body doesn't fit for that. Obviously you would say, right? Sometimes we say, oh, this team cannot cope with that team because they are not to that level, they are not to that standards. How can you win a match when you are not into that standards? So if I claim I go to run Olympics, it's obvious I'm going to lose, end up last, right? Why is that? Because my body doesn't support the activity called running 100 meters less than 10 seconds. It doesn't support. It's not suitable. So likewise, the active mind with which you work, with which we think, with which we meditate, or with which we do all our day-to-day activities, its nature is depending on the neutral mind, default mind, the bhavanga chitta. My physical strength of my physical capacity depends on the strength of my muscles. The same way, the strength of my active mind depends on the strength of the neutral, because it is the basis. When we are at sleep, it comes. According to Buddhism, even in this moment, the neutral minds reoccur time to time. It's the basis. It's produced by a karma. Same karma throughout the whole life. When the energy of that karma finishes, the life has to end. That's why Buddha said every being must die. Because karma, which gave the rebirth, has a limited capacity. There is no unlimited karma. The karma is limited. If it is produced in the neutral mind, which is the basis of life, this energy has to end one day. So the life has to end. That's the philosophy behind every being has to die. So it doesn't mean everything is decided by karma. Karma produces a neutral mind. Active mind, you have the option. You have the free will. You can give either good or bad. But the neutral mind decides. Now we have the muscles. I may do good things, I may do bad things, I may increase my capacity. But in the physicality, we can increase the strength of the physical body. But the neutral mind, you cannot do anything. But in the active level, you may increase or decrease your capacities. Possibility is there. For example, this is the active mind. Neutral mind. Active mind has a fuller range. But the range the active mind can go is already decided by this neutral mind. For example, some bodies cannot be developed in this very life to run 100 meters under 10 seconds. Impossible. How much you train, cannot. Right? How much you train, some people cannot lift 200 kg because their body doesn't suit for that. The same way, this neutral mind, which is produced by karma, decides the capacity of your active mind. Now think, unwholesome rebirth, dog, born due to a bad karma, right? The neutral mind, the level of neutral mind is very low. That's why in the dog life, you can never make a dog intelligent as human. Neutral mind, the default mind, has already barred this. Okay? Now think about human beings. Humans are born with kusala karma, wholesome deed. Kusala karma has 3 different levels. Very high wholesome deed, middle type of wholesome deed, very low wholesome deeds. What is a low wholesome deed? In order for a wholesome deed to be high, it has to have the understanding about good and bad. You should be able to know that he's doing good, this is good or bad. Whether this can give a result in future or not. Karma vipaka avabodhya. And the intention. Sometimes we do good deeds to become famous, right? Sometimes we do good deeds to put down the other. When the neighbor buys a good car, we want to get a better car than him, right? Not to get second to him, right? Sometimes. Some people, they do dana. If the neighbor gave 100,000, I want to give more 100,000, 150,000. It's a good dana, but the intention is to defeat him. It's wholesome deed, but intention is bad. So likewise, the quality of the good karma can go down. So good karma has levels, very pure, middle, low. Now this is the point. Now I'm coming to your question answer. If a low grade kusala karma gives the rebirth, that neutral mind, the default mind is low. They are called mentally challenged ones, according to Buddhism. So in this very life, there's no way you can change this. But that is not to say about having very strong defilements in this very life. That's different. If a middle grade karma gets the opportunity, it's a middle level person. It's a very pure karma gets, it's an intelligent person. Okay, but this doesn't decide the entire life. It's just the default mind. That's the point here. A mentally challenged person's active mind will have limitations. You cannot change the neutral mind, but the active mind with effort, with support can be increased. So naturally, by birth, he or she may, in this level, neutral mind cannot be changed according to Buddhism, but the active mind's capacity can be increased with education, with all these. So now the defilement is always there, whether you are intelligent or whether you are mentally challenged. Defilements are full-fledgedly present. When the mind is of an animal, they can come very quickly. But according to its world, its nature, the dog's habits are there. According to the life of dog, suiting its nature, defilements would come up. A cat would have different type of defilements. Then humans, mentally challenged one, its defilements would be different. He will not be able to have very sharp defilements. They are unable to, like intelligent beings can do some very bad stuff, right? We see this, right? Especially in politics, right? More intelligent, you can play the game, you can win the game, right? So intelligence, defilement is present. Mentally challenged, very highly intelligent, middle, doesn't matter, the defilements are there. But the neutral mind decides the capacity. I know this is a very, some abstract idea I'm talking, right? Don't worry, even you doesn't get the entire thing, okay? So what happens is, this neutral mind has decided the capacities, the active minds have already decided full capacity. For example, this is what I'm saying. Even, for example, I consider myself intelligent to some extent. But I'll never be able to reach the intelligence of Siddhartha. in this life. I'll never be a Buddha in this life. Cannot be a Buddha. Cannot reach the level of Venerable Sariputta even. Because my neutral mind, even though it's intelligent to some extent, will not be able to, it's not very fully intelligent like a Bodhisattva's mind. No. So I have my own capacities. Every being has his own capacities by birth. But that is not to mitigate his progress. With the active mind, you can increase the mentally challenged person even. That's why we see successful mentally challenged people. But he'll not be able to reach the level of Einstein, not be able to reach the level of Hawkins, not be able to reach the level of a very intelligent person, but under his capacity. This Ajahn Brahm says very nice thing. You are given with some bad sugar, bad flour. Someone is given with good sugar and good flour. Right? Result of your cake depends on your active mind. Some can be very intelligent. Devadatta was one of the most intelligent beings. He ended up in a very bad destination doing all the evil stuff. Right? So, as you ask the question, what is the main reason? First should we know the main reason is the neutral mind. The karma is the reason here. That's why in our olden days, our grandparents, this has a validity in Buddhist doctrine. But the thing is, we have not explained the mechanism clearly. It's in the doctrine. We just say karma. The young generation doesn't like it. How could it be karma? This is how Buddha's teachings have explained this. But this is not to discourage the mentally challenged person. It is not to discourage the parents who have mentally challenged children. No. But according to Buddhism, there is a truth that there will be limitations for this mentally challenged person. Not only to a mentally challenged person, but to a high intelligent person, there will be limitations. That's why I boldly say, even I start meditating 24 hours per a whole week, or for 10 years, I will not come to the level of a Sariputta in this life. Cannot. Because my consciousness, neutral consciousness, doesn't suit that. So Bodhisattva's life was a product of a very powerful, wholesome karma which he developed throughout the samsara. That's why you cannot be a Buddha immediately. You have to develop your mind. The level of your wholesome karmas gradually build up, you develop the habits. At the final lives, he does the karmas, good deeds he does are in a different level. They are in a different world, I would say. So when the rebirth happens, Bodhisattva's neutral mind was in a different had a different capacity. That's why he could give up the household life while the entire world was finding a way to liberate the self. He brought this very bold idea of non-selfness and rebirth. That I don't know whether you have thought about this. If you are talking about rebirth, it's very easy to explain rebirth based on self. Self departs from your body and goes to another incarnation of another body. It's very easy to explain. If you come to the non-selfness, like in science today, there's no rebirth. Science doesn't expect a self, right? Just particles are there, so then end up. The energy is gone. So when you are advocating non-selfness, you end up no life after death. When you advocate a self, yes, either the self would discard, mostly it will be born again. It will go to a bird flying from life to life. What was the Buddha's stance? It's a different one. Non-self rebirth. It's non-self. Mind and matter, rising and falling. Generation would have stopped at the birth, at the death, but still continues. Paticca Samuppada. It was a very bold path he took. That's why he said, all the world is falling into two extremes. The self exists, or there is no rebirth. But I teach the Dhamma in the middle way. No self, If no self, you easily go into the no rebirth doctrine. If you're talking about rebirth, you go into the self doctrine. It was a great challenge. As a teacher of Dhamma, I'm teaching Dhamma to many monks and preachers. This is the most difficult part. How to explain rebirth without a self. The Buddhism has an answer. Right? Buddhism has an answer. So now, how he could understand this without? I'm teaching. I have read it, and I'm reading from the Buddha's teachings and following his path, and I'm preaching. Imagine you are the first one to find this. That is a different thing. That's a different thing. So we say only a very rare human being can find this by himself and preach it. Pacceka Buddhas can find it by themselves but cannot preach it. So it was a different natural state of the mind. So even we have limitations. So the person who is mentally challenged, short answer, I took a very long answer actually. The short answer for your question, mentally challenged, the karma is a kusala karma. Every human according to Buddhism is born with a wholesome deed. It's a low wholesome deed. That's the problem. So that karma is producing natural mind over the life. But this is not to discourage that they cannot do anything. Yes, they can develop. And they can downfall even. A person with a very good neutral mind can increase and also decrease and end up in the jail. Could molest women and end up in lifetime prison. What happens we have seen many judgments in US courts. Very intelligent ones. They possessed a very good neutral mind, default mind, but they misused it. Right? So likewise, mentally retarded person has a weak neutral mind, but it is not the increasing of the neutral mind. Okay, neutral mind can. So the active mind you can bring up. So based on the neutral nature of the neutral mind, the soup of defilements, how it manifests will be different. Even dog has the same soup, we have the same soup, but dog get different defilements, we get different defilements. So their manifestation is decided by many reasons. The life, the species we are born into, the culture, as you asked, culture. That is not to say the Burmese people doesn't have the agitation, but their culture have carved. So they have different defilements. We have different defilements. Right? That would be my answer. Since in the answer I touched upon an important philosophical issue, I think it may strike a bit interesting to you. Every life has to end. What is the philosophy behind this? It's also a good thing if we can try to grab the idea. According to Buddhism, every person is born with karma. No? Good karma, good destination, bad karma, bad destination. That is not to say everything in life decided by the karma. Okay? So this default mind, the neutral mind, is recurring, arising, passing away, and it's a product of the karma. One karma which gave the rebirth. For a karma to give rebirth, it should have certain capacity. Not every karma can give rebirth. A karma should have a full capacity because it needs to support the entire life. So we have defined good deeds, bad deeds. Dasa akusala karmapata, dasa kusala karmapata, dasa punya kriya. Specific. Now, for example, if I get angry and agitation, I just throw this beetle leaf. I manifested anger, right? This anger is akusala, but it's not capable of producing a new life. But if I take a living being and toy it, that's a very bad deed. That can produce a bad rebirth. Right? So with a very pleasant mind, for example, giving very pleasant mind to Ajit, for example, Mr. Ajit, I do something very nice, pleasant thing to this chair. That is not going to produce any rebirth, although my mind was wholesome. But I supported a beggar or someone giving dana. Yes, this karma can give you birth. So, karmas also have different capacity. Good and bad, different karmas. Even a wholesome deed have good, bad, higher quality. Of dana can be of higher level, middle level, low level, as I said, with bad intentions and also. So a karma, one karma gives the rebirth. It's not only giving rebirth, it produces this neutral mind all the time, which becomes the surface for the active mind. Active mind happens, again we go to the neutral mind while they are sleeping, and then the active mind throughout the day, neutral mind, active mind, neutral. This is how it happens. Then neutral mind is the main basis of active mind. It is the cause of life, which is produced by karma. Now tell me, regardless of the nature of karma, good or bad, karma means action, right? With mind you think and do, intentional action, right? Is karma permanent or impermanent? Action I am talking, don't think about the capacity. Action is impermanent. Now this is a good action, you are listening to a Dhamma talk. You came here, you are sitting, listening, after finish, you will leave. You are not doing this karma throughout the whole day, you are just doing for a few hours, right? It has a beginning, it is done, it's done. You do it and it's done. Beginning, middle and mula mada aga. Karma is impermanent. But karma has a strength, energy. Karma Shakti we call. Now, could a impermanent karma possess unlimited energy? What do you think? Logic. Unlimited energy means never ending source of energy. Seems cannot, no? The karma is impermanent. How could it possess unlimited energy? It's not possible. Sorry? It seems not, right? Now think about meditation. Okay, I meditated and created good karma for 1 hour. Can't you increase the level of meditation? Can. You can increase means the previous meditation was not up to its full standards, right? That's why you could increase, right? So if you could increase its capacity, it means it didn't have the unlimited energy. That's why you could increase, right? If you say you can increase your good and bad deeds, it shows that its capacity is limited already, right? That's why you can increase. Limited means it has a certain level, you can increase the capacity. So it was not unlimited capacity. Unlimited capacity you cannot increase. There's nothing to increase in unlimited capacity. So impermanent karma would have a limited capacity, limited energy, limited strength. Now think, one karma is giving rebirth, neutral mind, constantly happening, his energy is exhausting, everything exhausts when work is done. You know, in science even, I'm not preaching scientifically, but that's the nature, right? Energy is exhausted when something is done. So, if karma is giving the rebirth and the karma is impermanent, karma has a limited capacity, what do you think? Would this capacity end or not? Would this energy end or not one day or another? It has to end. So Buddha said, Bodhisattva, not the Buddha, Bodhisattva said, when Alara Kala Uddaka Ramaputta advocated a very strong concentration, samadhi, they said this will lead you to an eternal peace, eternal heaven. This is the heaven, this is the liberation. Bodhisattva's argument was, if you are talking that I will be born in an eternal peaceful place due to this concentration which you are talking. If concentration is giving birth to eternal life, because he can see the level of concentration can be increased, it decreases, and it is impermanent, you enter, you come out. It's an impermanent, limited karma. Surely it's a powerful karma. Obviously, how much it is powerful, it has to be limited. If it is limited, if you are talking that you will be born because of this karma, this energy would end one day and you would eventually pass away from that life. So every life produced by karma, be it in the Brahma realm or Deva realm or human realm, has to end one day because its cause has a limited capacity. How do we know its cause is limited? It's observable. You don't need any argument for that. You do a karma, you finishes this. You give dana, it's gone, it's finished. Protect sila at the end of life, the sila is finished. You do meditation, you come out of it, it's finished. So impermanent karma has to have limited capacity. If karma is giving rebirth, that life cannot be eternal. Natti jatasya amaranang. This Buddhist teaching has this basis. It's not just taught what he felt. Then what happens when it ends? Why is born again? Why is born again? Is because of the craving. It pushes. Another good question is, why is karma accumulated? Why does the karma has the ability to give results? It's another tough question in Buddhism. We normally don't talk about these things. Have you ever thought about it? We normally say good deeds, bad deeds, don't do bad, do good, you will get results. Seldom people ask the question, especially the Buddhists, how could karma give a result? Is there explanation in Buddhism for that? How could karma give? Why it is giving a vipaka? Why it is producing a new life? We can have two questions. Instead of producing a rock, why does it produce a life? And from the first place itself, why it is producing something? Buddhism doesn't prove this, but it has an explanation. You say this is the reason. It's not a fully proving, it's a partial explanation that we have. I have to admit the limitations in Buddhism. As a person like me, I normally admit these are the limitations. Then it's easy. Rather than saying that this is the gospel truth, right? I would say this is a limitation. Even science have a limitation in explanation, right? So I would this is the explanation is found here. Craving is there latently, want to live, present in our mind, not in our mind, with our mind, latent, sleeping. We are not free from that. So mind is not fully free from this craving. What is karma? Think, I take this and offer this. Now think this is money, I offer this to someone. It's a good deed, right? Supporting someone. Buddha has termed this as kusala. I use my hand and kill a mosquito, akusala. What is the karma actually? Karma is the action. What is the action I have done? I have given my possession to someone else. My chetana, intention, gave this to him. My intention to kill executed this activity, executed the act of killing. So my entire attention is to give this or to kill. When giving as Buddhist, sometimes we may have a thought, may this help me to be in a good place and so forth. Thoughts are there. But while we are giving, no. It's just the activity of giving, right? While we are giving, we fully focus on giving this. Killing is killing. No one wants to be in the woeful realms by killing a mosquito. We don't expect that, though we do it sadly. So how karma is work? Karma is executing the activity, completing the activity at hand. That's giving or killing or stealing something. Now think about a non-Buddhist. He doesn't have expectation of rebirth, right? Just giving, just execute the act of giving. But according to Buddhism, even he is accumulating karma, whether he knows or not, or whether he likes or not. How do we explain this? That is the place where latent craving comes into play. Expectation is there for life to continue. Is always present. Sleeping. That's why suddenly if someone comes with a gun into this place, we are running, scattered, because the expectation to life is still present in us even while we are listening to Dhamma. It's not in the mind, it's present in us. At any time it can come up. Mind is not fully freed from this. Mind is always, the craving is always towards continue to live. What is meant by continuing to live, wanting to live? According to Buddhism, life is mind and matter. I hope you have heard about this. Mind and matter. Continuation of mind and matter, not a self. Okay? So, when the craving is wishing for life, eventually, it's wishing for mind and matter. Eventually, it's wishing for mind and matter. It's not able to distinguish mind and matter. But we are wishing for mind and matter. Day-to-day speech, we say, my mind, I thought like this, my body. Even the person is unable to distinguish two elements. Craving for life, wishing for life means, in another way, wishing for mind and matter. Now, come back to the first explanation. Karma, chetanaham bhikkave kammang vadami, right? Chetana does the activity. Chetana is the force of the mind, effort of the mind. Effort is not very actual. Effort is a chetana. We do it. Killing and giving. While we are doing those two activities, constant craving is present at a latent stage. So this force, now this is what now the book comes into the context. This activity, Chetana is executing this activity, giving, it's being affected by the craving. So that effort, Chetana, is not only fulfilling this activity, it also efforts for a mind and matter. Just I'll give you a simile. Think craving is the president. I'll give a present day example. Karma Chetana is the minister. Minister wants to build a bridge under the president. What do you think? How many expectations he would have? Want to serve the people, also to please who? The president, right? Right? He would never do anything that would displease the president in the bridge, right? In the project, right? Think about a massive project. Surely he will invite the president to open it and make sure that there is nothing that president is displeased. If possible, he will make something or statue, at least his name. Otherwise, he have problems in the cabinet, right? Yeah, that's the actual truth, right? So, minister is not in the actual sense. If you're under the influence of a leader, you don't only work for the benefit of the people, you have to satisfy the leader. You have to think about his mindset as well. Just a simile I'm giving. So think, this is the word, craving is like a king. Chetana is under its influence. Right? The work we are doing, maybe it's against the craving, or we are doing something, maybe we are doing against something, the craving even, giving dana, but influence of the king is still present. So, while giving the dana, giving this, Chetana is not fully dedicated for doing the activity. It also has an effort for get nama and rupa. This is called, in sutras, Buddha has mentioned this, ayuhana. The word ayuhana is given in sutras. What is ayuhana? While doing the activities, the Chetana, even we are being not aware, put effort for life, new rebirth, life. Effort is put forth. So, what is happening? That effort, it's effort to produce something like nama rupa. Since at the moment there's no two consciousness, right? One conscious stream is going on, default consciousness is going, active consciousness, one stream is going. This, it completes the activity, the present activity. That effort doesn't have the opportunity to give a new life because life is continuing. Life is continuing. It doesn't have an opportunity to give a new life at the moment. Since there's no opportunity, it gets stored. That's what is happening. Because now at the present life, there's a life going on, right? So it cannot produce a new life. It gets stored. When the opportunity comes, when is the opportunity coming? When this life is going to end. Then we have accumulated, if we have accumulated many karmas in the samsara, one of them will get the opportunity. King is there. Minister has been working. Now minister's time is over. It doesn't matter to the king. I want to live. Come another one. Okay. Someone has finished his tenure. I think he's the deep state. Tanna is the deep state. There's a conspiracy going, right? Normally say in US or any other country, deep state, who is at the real controllers. President is just ruling the country from the surface. The president's tenure is over. Okay, some other president please come and rule the next life. Or universal monarch, regional monarchs. It's controlling, but the main ruler is still there. It's craving. So when the karma finishes its tenure of this life, there is opportunity for another karma to control. Why is this? The craving is still there. If the craving is gone, if someone is an arahant, no one to regulate these things. Karma, the past karma of an arahant. Arahant has done past karma. Angulimala did many karma. But they didn't get the opportunity to give a rebirth. Right? So this is how Buddhism explains. Karma is accumulated. Karma is created and karma gives the opportunity to grow. I know it's very abstract, right? If you have heard for the first time, maybe it's too much, and some would have got the idea. I just want to mention. There are explanations about this. Right? There are explanations about this. So I talked about few things. We'll conclude today. Right? The time is up. We talked about few deep abstract points. Latent defilements, the sleeping ones, which comes into the surface, and the mind stream. Neutral mind, active mind, two types of minds. And then in practice what we do is we don't let the latent defilements to come into the surface. Dana in a certain way, Sila in a different way, Bhavana in a different way. But Vipassana, you get the enlightenment and reduce because later latent defilements are based on the ignorance, right? So develop enlightenment in vipassana and lessen the ignorance and dispel it, so you get rid of all the defilements. That's what is normally happening. Okay. So then in the question and answer sessions, we discussed few important factors. How a person, how the defilements come into the self, different countries, different cultures, we said, right? The pool of defilement is with us, even from the childhood. How it manifests depends on many cases, many reasons. Then, for example, a person with mentally challenged person, what are the main reasons? The default mind is produced by karma. If it is a weak karma, it's a weak default mind. But that is not to say that his state is fixed. Active mind can go up and down. So they can develop. They can, even a very high default mind person can downgrade himself with the active mind. So the opportunity is there. But Buddhism acknowledges that beings are different by birth. Their capacities are limited. And then we discussed, if the karma is producing the active default mind throughout the life, and if the karma is impermanent and the karma has a limited capacity, that life has to end one day. There's no way that you can have a permanent life if you are born with karma. Impossible. Impossible according to the philosophical standpoint. Then how karma is brought, how karma is accumulated? Because of the craving. Craving to live means craving to produce nama and rupa. So the chetana, intention, effort, when it is doing the activity, it's affected by this craving. So this effort is not only to complete the activity at hand, but also to satisfy the king who is the craving. So a certain effort is put forward to produce new lives or new nama rupa. And at that moment it doesn't get the opportunity because the life is continuing, no two minds can happen at the same time. It has to wait till the opportunity is gained. When does the opportunity comes? At the moment of death. So one of them gains and it produces. Finally, why does it produce nama rupa? Why does it is not producing any rock or anything? Because the craving wants nama rupa, craving wants life. So Chetana is not producing something irrelevant. It's producing what the craving needs. It produces mind and matter. It means another life. Because craving wanted another life. Life means mind and matter. So that's why this karma energy is not doing something else but producing mind and matter, constantly producing lives one after another. So what the Buddha wanted us to do is, seeing if you are born, lots of suffering is following in one life. Lots of suffering is following. If you analyze each and every moment, it's full of suffering. What we do is we neglect this. Just to conclude our talk with the path to liberation, to give some more insights. Think about inside the body. There's nothing that you can value, right? There's nothing that you can show and give to someone as a souvenir inside the body. Obviously not. And think that what this body is giving to us. This body gives to us constant hunger, right? There's a sickness, according to Buddha, that would never be cured. Every day is a sickness, according to his standards. 3 times per day, you still feed. Every day, you have fed it, even from the best 5-star hotel in the world. We had the meal today, tomorrow, or today night, we have to eat again. Right? This body, we just take it as a natural need. But if there is a person, for example, according to Buddhist teaching, there is a life called Brahma realm, which is an impermanent life. But in that life, they don't need food to sustain. So they don't have the desire to eat. Then don't they have the sense of satisfying the tongue? Satisfying tongue is very pleasant only when we are hungry, right? When you are filled with the best food in the world, you are done. He brings another second best food in the world, or you are filled with the second best food in the world. He brings the first best food in the world to the table. No appetite, right? You cannot eat. So, therefore, these senses are remedies for the suffering that we encounter. How many times you have to take bath? How many times we have taken bath and cleaned our body? But still, after this talk, I will go and clean my body again. right? So this is the constant suffering that it is giving if we think intelligently. Whatever we do to this body, one day it's going to decay. It's going to give pains, right? When you're getting older. And one day it's going to die. It's not going to be pleasant at a certain age, obviously. And it gives lots of pain. Imagine if this body doesn't get decayed, there's no problem. So problem is in the body. The mind doesn't get, is not, now think about the mind. If the mind doesn't feel that things happen to the body, mind feels it, that's the problem. That's why we get hurt. Then you can ask, there is a lot of pleasure, isn't it? Yes, there is pleasure. Obviously there is pleasure. There is happiness. That's why we are attracted to this. No doubt about that. But the number of suffering overweights in a huge amount the pleasure that we have. We analyze the pleasures that we encounter. Think about the being in a very cordial environment with the families, enjoying in a very nice pleasant moment, or having a good meal for example, having a good French cuisine in Paris, having spent a lot of money going there. In order to go there, you have to work hard. You have to, in order to earn, you have to have some money, right? Earnings to go to spend such money to go and have enjoyment there. In order to have such savings, you have to have a good occupation. For that, you have to have passed the examinations. For that, you have to have studied well for 13 years in the school. With all this effort, you have all the money, and we go to Paris and enjoy it for how long? Maximally 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of it. When you come out of it, that's gone. Next day morning, you come back to Sri Lanka and have to have the food, the same food, right? So the pleasures are there very temporarily. But it is very appealing. We have expectation for future pleasures. That's how we go. But every moment, constantly, suffering is present to end the story. So, new life means full of suffering. Now think you are bringing a sack of rice from the shop. We know obviously, in countries like this, we have stones inside the sack, right? In the olden days, there was obviously stones, right? Now think there are 100 stones or 500 small stones in a big pack of rice. So when you are carrying it home, someone asks what you are carrying. Tell me if I answer, I may give 3 answers. Are they wrong? Can't you say I'm carrying a sack? Yes, you can say. Can't you say you are carrying dal? Rice. Yes, you can say. Can't you say I'm carrying 500 small stones? Can't you say? Can. But what is the most appropriate word? I'm carrying rice or sack of rice, whatever. Just say I'm carrying rice. Why is that? That's the most abundant, obvious thing. So a person like the Buddha, when he analyzed the life in detail, in a delicate way, if you find it's full of suffering each and every moment into the level of breathing even, breathing is a struggle that we have to sustain. Every moment we are breathing. At the same time we have some pleasures, obviously Sukha, Vedana, happiness is there, covered by lots of suffering. So why is intelligent being like Buddha, how would he say life is full of happiness or full of suffering? To say it's a life is a happiness, it's similar to saying you are carrying 500 stones while holding a big sack of rice. That's why he said birth is suffering. Rebirth is suffering. You are obtaining a suffering, you are gaining a suffering. So, the end of the story, in order to stop this, Do not let the karma to give a rebirth. You cannot stop this as long as the urge is present. Get rid of the urge. You cannot get rid of the urge as long as the ignorance of this life. You are ignorant of this life, about this life. So develop wisdom. So eventually you get rid of the ignorance. When ignorance is removed, no craving for the life. No craving for the life means no rebirth, which equals to suffering. Then, to do that, you have to listen to Dhamma intelligently. Get rid of defilements, dana, sila, bhavana, finally, vipassana, bhavana, and completely get the enlightenment. So that is the path. So I hope I conveyed the message in a nutshell. So wish you all the best and hope you enjoyed it or had some insights. It was deep, abstract, and hope that you will not lose your interest in pursuing this path. So wish you all the best. Sadhu, sadhu. So we shall share merits with our dead relatives, with the deities, and also special thanks to Mr. Ajit for arranging this. He's giving accommodation to me and staying upstairs today night. He's been very helpful to us, and with his wife, especially to our institution, Sangha. And thank you very much. And also, we should be thankful for arranging this Dhamma discussion. And I wish him all, both of them, good health, good life, long life, and may both of them attain the eternal peace as they aspire. And also wish you all the best, that may you be successful in this life, all of you. Have a peaceful mind, you'll be able to follow this Dhamma, spiritual path, and finally have a good destination and attain the liberation as soon as possible. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Idang vo nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang vo nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Idang vo nyati nang hotu sukita hontu nyatayo. Akasatta ca bhummatta devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakkantu sambuddha sasanang. Akasatta ca bhummatta devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakkantu sambuddha desanang. Akasatta ca bhummatta devanaga mahiddhika punyantang anumoditva chiran rakkantu sambuddha savakam chiran rakkantu tvam sada. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satan samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satan samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. Imina punya kammena mame bala samagamo satan samagamo hotu yava nibbana pattiya. Idamme punya kammang asavakkaya vahang hotu. Idamme punya kammang asavakkaya vahang hotu. Idamme punya kammang asavakkaya vahang hotu. Sabba dukkha pamuncatu.